Bollocks! 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 Welcome to Toyah and Robert, your deeply unqualified agony aunts, willing and here we are to bollocks, to present you with lots of useless answers to even a few of your... I'm really screwing this up.
Everybody, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We've come back early because we're so concerned for all of you, our community, our friends, that we're in lockdown again, and it's quite a serious lockdown. So we just want to come back. I think we're 2 weeks early, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Coming back. We just want to be with you. We want the community to be vibrant and just coping with not only the lockdown, but with January. So welcome back. Happy New Year to you. I hope you are all safe, all well, and the same goes for your loved ones. And we've got fantastic questions from you for the new year. Eduardo DU has actually sent his question with how to pronounce his name, which I think is really, really cute. Thank you, Eduardo. What event would you like to have witnessed? An example of this from Eduardo is he'd like to see J.S. Bach first attempt the contrapunctus one.
All right, well, I'm rather more interested in the wonderful event that is here and now and available. In other words, for example, I've been on the road for 51 years. So for me to be here with my wife at home with Willip and Fripp Cox, our unicorns, looking out the same window every day of the changing seasons. This morning it was snowing lightly. That was a wonderful event. Now, for me, that's extraordinary. Perhaps for Eduardo, it's a bit mundane. There is so much waiting to be discovered.
Eduardo, in context of Robert's answer, I witnessed him make an omelette the other day. And that was quite amazing. Robert is left-handed, and the concept of whisking with a fork taught me Robert is dyspraxic, I'm dyslexic and dyspraxic. It taught me that genius finds a way out and through the body, come what may. And I find that a rather remarkable and hopeful thing for the children who are presently suffering in the education system at the moment, is genius finds its way into the world, whether you can whisk an egg or not. Now, Eduardo, the thing I would like to witness in history is David Bowie looking into the mirror and seeing Ziggy Stardust for the first time. And I want to look at the expression on his face, because he must have known the effect that was going to have on a whole generation of up-and-coming rockers. So thank you for that question. Tony Calteri, as a lifetime musician, I think this is absolutely brilliant. I have concluded that perfectionism is rooted in fear. Toyah, what would you agree? Tony, no, I don't agree, because perfection is something I've been trying to seek all my life, and I'm still pretty far away from it. And I've learned not to care what others criticism and view of me is, because I'm on my unique journey. So perfectionism to me is knowing you can only let yourself down if you are doing your best or not doing your best. So i.e. practice, 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 practice.
For me, the search of perfection can't possibly come from fear. Can't possibly come from fear. It comes from our sense of what is right and our pursuit of that.
And also, I think perfection it's so objective, it's so personal. I understand where you're coming from, Tony, the fear of those around you judging you. Well, from someone who's been judged pretty critically for 42 years, and I'm talking about me, that you learn to do your best and go beyond your best, and that has meaning to you. When my parents passed away, I no longer cared about others' opinions of me, because I know and still know that I will attempt to do my best irrelevant of what others think for the rest of my life. So perfectionism for me is something I know I will never obtain, but I will honour myself by continuing to try to do it. Then Tony asks, what's your favourite soup, Robert?
Any soup that my wife makes for me is perfection soup.
I think as long as it's nutritious, that's what counts. Good job, George asks, Robert, our band would very much like to know what rig you use in the kitchen because you think it sounds amazing.
You're very generous, but this is a nerdy question.
Answer it.
Hello, Mr. Good Job. This is my Fernandez Les Paul, specifically made for me by the good people of Fernandez in Tokyo. I'm going through, for when I use a multi-effects unit, a Helix floor unit on the floor right in front of me, and I'm using a little Yamaha THR 300 Mark II wireless amplifier.
Which we're all using in the studio on Pop Posh. It's so popular.
Pop Posh, dear?
Posh Pop.
Yes. They're wonderful little amps, they're great practice amps, but you can crank them up to a certain degree, and they have been used on most of the Toyah and Robert Sunday lunches.
And the rig I use in the kitchen is a Soma bra, who no longer do my size. Soma, please make 34C again. Thank you. Greg Hatcher, you don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
Yes, I do, dear. It twigged. Yes.
Greg Hatcher, you ask, believe it or not, my first encounter with Mr. Fripp's work was in prose as a columnist. He did a series of wonderful pieces about his experiences playing gigs, large and small, all types of venues, and the things that were all screwed up about the record business. I found them fascinating reads. Toyah's mentioned writing as well, and I wondered, do either of you have published books out there? Living Out Loud. That's my first autobiography, written in 2000. It's very much written from a spiritual, religious base, because at the point in 2000, I was presenting songs of praise for BBC. So my next autobiography, I think, will be very, very different. How about you, Robert?
The columns referred to, I wrote a series of columns for Musician, Player and Listener magazine in America, and they were published in England as well in different mags. And they were a report from life on the road, because it was fairly obvious to me, reading various commentaries, that no one has much of an idea of what it's like to actually be on the road.
Can you give us an example? I can. An open sewer running through the dressing room in a club in Liverpool.
How about the dressing room in Manchester, where Sunday All Over the World were playing? The dressing room and the toilet were the same room.
Yes!
And all the walls filled with the graffiti, and above the toilet there was an arrow pointing down, and above the arrow was written, "The Origins of Rothschild." Now, Rothschild was not a band that I knew, but I've learnt that they come from nearby Evesham.
Okay.
But
How about, is it Hole in the Wall Bath, where the gents was backstage?
Moles.
So the audience had to walk through us as we were doing our gig to go to the gents. And I remember these men walking past Robert going, "Hello, Robert, how you doing?" while you were playing.
Well, not only was this true of Sunday All Over the World at Moles in Bath, it was also true of the debut band, the debut gig of Tony Levin, Bill Bruford, Adrian Ballou and Robert in Discipline, which became King Crimson. So the first time that the Discipline repertoire was played in front of people, the people were walking between Adrian and Tony to get to the toilet and then back again while we were playing.
I'm so glad you've experienced that, because there's been many times I've been on stage thinking, why am I doing this? As the audience has put its children on stage and they start playing the drum kit while we're in the middle of a really heavy rock song. And it's amazing what musicians go through. You just wouldn't believe it. It's not a glamorous life.
There is a book being published later in 2021, The Guitar Circle, which is a history essentially of guitarcraft, and the Guitar Circle articles too.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm a very proud lyricist, so I'm going to ask Cherry Red that I do a poetry book of all my lyrics in the past 42 years, which I think are pretty good stuff. They're good visual stuff. My lyrics have influenced novelists, and that's been acknowledged. So I think it's about time I had the Toyah Book of Lyrics come out. But that would be down to Cherry Red and me, because I own everything from about 1986 onwards, and Cherry Red owned the whole of my early catalogue. We have a great relationship, and I think it would be wonderful for that book to come out of my lyrics.
What books are you anticipating writing for the future?
Okay, I'm continually writing short story ideas. I absolutely adore horror. And I'm always writing, but I'm never confident with my characters. I study Stephen King non-stop because I just adore his journey through his writing career, but I am not good at developing characters on the page. I will continue to write. In lockdown, the first lockdown, I did 5 short nonsense poems about Fripp B, and that's Fripp as a Bee, which we're going to make available as greetings cards and Valentine's cards. It's hopefully announced any minute now. So we're continually writing, but we know people like Cressida Conley who write and publish. They lock themselves away in a hotel room for months on end and do not come out till they have that book. We're Taurian. We can't do that. We're always in the kitchen. So one day we might be that type of person. So Greg, thank you for that question. Robert Jewell, I think you should both be in Star Trek. Robert, I agree. And actually, I've been checked for availability many times on Star Trek. I've just never got the job. It would you like to be in a Star Trek movie? Yeah, absolutely. Toyah reminds me of Kes from the series Voyager. Now, you don't know who Kes is.
No, I don't.
I looked her up. She's adorable. I love her 1970 kind of pixie haircut. I would definitely love to be a new Kes. It was 1974 she did that. Now, Robert says that Robert would make an excellent Vulcan monk. Well, I think he'd make an excellent Yoda in another film. Any comment, Robert?
Yeah, well, the last time I did interviews seriously was in 2003 in Tokyo, and the young press lady came up to me before the series of interviews for several days that week, 8 interviews a day, and she said to me, "I've been told you're the Yoda of progressive rock."
So, getting back to Robert's question, would you like to be a Vulcan monk in Star Trek? Okay, I would like to be one of the flesh-eating dolls in the remake of Barbarella. I'd like to be in anything, to be honest. Thank you for that question. Sammy Vesta, what was the moment that made each of us realise that we were meant to be together? Oh, he's written that all the way from Nashville.
Well, for me, it was working on the Lady or the Tiger album with Toyah that Toyah stole my heart. And Toyah came to visit me at the Fernhill House in the Fripp family village in Witchhampton in Dorset, came to visit on the Friday and returned to London, and on the Tuesday morning, sitting alone at home, looking up the road, down the road rather, to the road from Wimborne to Cranbourne, I realised this is my wife.
For me, it was a bit earlier than that, only by a few days. It was when we wrote Mothership together, and I did the vocal, and it was so deep and powerful and impassioned. I knew we had a future together.
You never told me that.
Well, I probably have.
No, you've never told me that.
Well, I've told it you now in front of quite a few thousand people.
Thank you, Robert Jewell, for that question.
Snarfos Maximus, I like that name. Robert, I was curious which amplifier you're using.
We've already addressed this.
Well, just repeat it.
Oh, I'm not remotely interested in this sort of question.
Okay, Tony Goodwin. What's the best thing about your current hometown, and have we ever been to Bewdley and fed the ducks? We went to Bewdley and we got mobbed. And I can remember we had to run back to the car and get out of Bewdley. It's quite surprising. Everyone around here is very, very friendly and adorable. We live in paradise, and Bewdley isn't that far away. But we started to get followed, and this happened in Ludlow. The word got out that we were walking around these towns, and cars were just driving past going, "Oi, it's two rock gods together!" Do you remember that? It was really funny, but we had to get out of town.
But I love Bewdley, but we didn't feed the ducks.
Well, no, we couldn't. We were just about to be mobbed. Nick Jacobs, of all the films we've made where we've allowed ourselves to use our music, which is our favourite to watch?
Mandy with Nicolas Cage.
Of all the films that we... Oh, right, I thought it meant the ones that we have made. So of all the films that you have allowed to use your music...
Yes.
Oh, my dyslexia drives me bonkers. I have to guess what things say.
Well, would you say Mandy? You enjoyed Mandy too?
Mandy is stunning.
That's King Crimson's Starless. There was a film which used half of its running length of music, used King Crimson's Lark Sung in Aspic Part 2, but permission was not granted, and that film was a Manuela. So supposedly the first of the Blue is All Right films. I was sent to Leicester Square to watch the film and listen to this to see if in fact there was copyright infringement. Two people said go and listen to it. One was John Wetton and the other was Richard Williams, then editor of The Melody Maker. So I went to Leicester Square and saw this film. Every sex scene had part of Lark Sons in Aspic Part 2, completely ripped off. The film was astonishingly boring. So we launched a legal action and won.
I just love that story of you sitting there in a Mac on your own watching Emmanuel.
With a Sony cassette recorder so we could prove it.
I'm recording the heavy breathing.
It was awful.
I know. So this is a lovely question. Tommy Hines, what's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to us both? Can I go first?
Please.
Was ending up in a room in a very expensive apartment in Mayfair with Imelda Marcos and her two daughters. I have to say all three were utterly charming. The daughters were gorgeous, and Imelda Marcos wanted me to introduce her daughters to London society. And then not long after that, I was hosting a Sunday lunch for an ex-Prime Minister of ours, Edward Heath, when he had to disappear and take a phone call from Colonel Gaddafi. So that's a few bizarre things. But the one that you want me to tell is I had to have major surgery 11 years ago. I had a complete prosthetic put in my hip because I was born without a hip joint. And it was a really, really nasty operation for me. It was very, very painful. And as soon as I came out of surgery, I was made to stand up. And I had heart failure. And I went into an alternate existence that was so crystal clear, so defined in every detail, I actually think I jumped to the future. And I was about 62, which I am now. I was in New York starring in a medical drama comedy. I was the lead. I said every line. I was with the crew. I was with my fellow actors. It was a phenomenal experience that was utterly ruined by Toyah, 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 open your eyes. Toyah, Toyah, come back, come back. And I was pulled back into this body, surrounded by the resus team and my dear husband standing in the corner, completely paralysed with fear.
That isn't entirely true, dear.
It is.
I was concerned for you clearly, but I was standing out of the way so the people who knew what they were doing could do it.
Could resus me.
Yeah. What I would have done is give you a kiss.
Well, that would have done it. Wake, wake, sleeping beauty. So what's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to you?
Well, if we look at the definition of bizarre as out of the ordinary, well, I seek the extraordinary within the ordinary. Like as mentioned earlier, it was snowing today. I noticed the snow. It was stunning.
It's beautiful.
But if you're looking at an artist's musical life, then perhaps you would consider, I don't know what an ordinary person is, but for example, when you're playing notes and music comes to inhabit the notes and it comes to life,
Yeah.
it's extraordinary. Like, for example, visiting Eno for the first time at his home in St John's Wood, and he said, would you like to plug your guitar into my Revoxes? So I plugged it in and began playing, and it became no pussyfooting. From nowhere, nothing was discussed. Eno didn't explain what happens. He put the guitar in, I began to play, and it unfolded from nowhere. It was extraordinary.
It's the same with singing. Now, to all of you who've asked if I would run away with you, I would just like to say thank you, and can Robert come too? And Gemma Holmes asks, where can she get a Robert?
That's easy, you advertise. However, lots of Roberts turn up, and most of them are probably not the Roberts you want. So I think a better solution is to find the person you wish to be with, that you recognise is your partner in this lifetime.
Bug, people are in lockdown.
Oh, well, I'm sure there's ways around that, but what you do, you find the right person and then get them to change their name to Robert.
And I'd like to point out Robert's pin. It's a crown. I just think it's so rinky-dink. What's the magic chord today, Bug?
Well, I don't know if it's a magic chord. I think magic double stops. So for anyone who'd like to be a slinky groover, you have to learn. I can't follow that.
I'm having to learn guitar to play. I've got the lead in a film, and I have to be a kind of junkie guitarist, age 62. So for the last month, I've been learning to play rock guitar. So I'm still very much a beginner. And Robert gave me this staggeringly beautiful Fender copy for Christmas to be my guitar in the movie.
It's not a copy, lover.
Oh, is it gone?
Oh, it's the real thing.
Oh my God, I thought it was a copy. Oh, Buggles, Wade. Thank you, I love you. Thank you, my dear hero Robert. I love you so much. Yeah. So what's the magic chord today, Robert?
I can't follow that. I'm not even going to
come
attempt
on!
it. I've been upstaged.
No, people want to.
They can come next week, dear.
Do it. Do it now.
This is now, you may have noticed at home, this is now a battle of wills between the wife and me. No. No.
Come on!
No!
I heard you an hour ago. Play it, please. Pretty please. I'll give you a blowjob. That was great. Do you want 2 blowjobs? Play it again.
Will you please forgive my wife? She is extraordinarily and incorrigibly vulgar.
Everybody, we're thinking of you. We will see you tomorrow for Sunday lunch, which is a real fabulous one. Please reach out, talk. This is an extraordinary time. I still view it as we're just approaching the summit of a new life. And if we can just hold in for 2 months, it might even have to be 3, we will get there and life will become our new normality. It will be positive. We're thinking of you.
Please be well, stay safe. From Toyah and Robert, you're uselessly unqualified.
Uselessly unqualified.
Agony Aunts.
Thank you, I love you. Thank you, my dear hero Robert.